Episode 3. The Journey Begins. When we last saw Alistair and his companions, he had spoken with Panthmage. Now understanding what lies ahead of our heroes, they set out on their quest to leave Sky Tower. They travel for a few days on the dunes of the hot desert, all of them now beginning to get sick of this dry environment. They finally reach the end, the place where the ground makes a sudden change from the sandy feel of the desert to a distinct ground feel of the earth. They have almost reached the entrance to King's Heart Forest. They leave the skiff sails for the rebels to collect and begin their walk, all happy for the first time in days that they can walk on solid ground without it feeling as if they are walking on fire. At first, the terrain went from solid ground to grassy plains. There was only slight foliage and almost a steady straight plain in front of them. Leery of any enemies, they proceed carefully. Slowly, the foliage around them becomes thicker and thicker, then to the point where it's noticeable that less light is now trickling in over from the overhanging trees. Their surroundings have transferred from the dusty, dry desert to the rich, lush forest, teeming with wildlife, and home to many of the surrounding towns in the Great Lands, and their great city. After walking a bit longer, they then reach the heart of the forest, so to speak. With the many different routes to take, and all the sights to see, it's definitely a beautiful place. They figure out which way they need to go, and begin following the fated dirt path that will guide them on their walk to Boswell Town, just as Panthmage told them. But as they begin walking, they hear a slight sound. It starts getting closer.
Sounds like a stampede. What do you think it is?
I don't know, but whatever it is, I don't think it's a welcoming party.
Through the trees coming onto their path, they see King's men on armored doggia coming towards them very rapidly. They prepare to fight.
They're headed right toward us! Move!
Huh. Time for me to test out my armor.
Fast, Alistair plummets his fist into the ground, sending an earth-shattering quake towards the advancing cavalry, knocking several soldiers off their doggias and fatally wounding others. Windchaser, seeing her moment of opportunity, steps in and they quickly engage in combat, sprint at her side, biting and tackling the armored doggias, ripping off their armor to get to the exposed weak points they covered. Enemies are now coming in one after another. Alistair's adapting to his newfound raw power, shattering their armor and swords. They were by far no match for him, and surprisingly the armor he was wearing felt light, like an extension of his body. Earlier back at the palace, King was shown by a higher power that Alistair had prevailed after being assassinated, and then showed King what Alistair's new form looked like. King was aware Alistair grew more powerful, and the King's men were alerted of everything as well. The people of the kingdom, however, knew only that Alistair had fallen to the rebels, and with the recent changes, they all remained in their homes to try and protect themselves from the injustice occurring, constantly in fear of what King could do to them, fear of the unknown. The King's men knew instantly it was Alistair and sought out to eliminate him. There were far too many, each of them taking on multiple at once. Alistair is about to strike his foe off his doggia, whenever the enemy drops to the ground abruptly with a loud thud. Then another soldier drops to the ground that was about to strike Windchaser.
Thanks for the help, Wind.
That wasn't me, Alistair.
They then noticed the low menacing growls of Sprint as he looked up at a tree.
Tell your mutt to shut its mouth.
Confused, Alistair and Windchaser look up as well. In the trees crouching down was Soul Hunter. Soul Hunter had helped them finish off the King's men from an aerial standpoint and had eliminated them surprisingly very quickly. He lunges down from the 60-foot tree with ease. It is now clear to them that Soul Hunter has experience from combat that has enhanced his agility and overall raw power over the years. After finishing off the enemy and taking any possible loot from them that could help himself, especially gold, Soul Hunter is interrupted by Windchaser.
That's extremely dishonorable, robbing the dead. You should be ashamed.
Soul Hunter, giving a glance to Windchaser and then at Alistair, replies,
Hey kitty cat, tell your girlfriend to get off my ass.
Looking at each other bashfully, Windchaser exclaims,
I'm not his girlfriend!
Yeah, I would never date her.
Oh, and what the hell makes you think you're too good for me?
Enough. I'm the best treasure hunter in all of Redia. This is my profession. If you don't like it, you can keep walking.
As our heroes talk to Soul Hunter about where they have come from, their story thus far, and how they are in search of a man in Boswell Town that has a map to the relic they need to defeat King. They explain how King is the tyrant of Alistair's homeland. Soul Hunter takes a step back defensively, and proudly explains how he is the son of the map wielder. Furious with his father for not accepting his ways as a mercenary and treasure hunter, Soul Hunter stole his father's map. He is questing for the relic as well so he can sell it for money. They stand there looking at each other for a brief moment, and tension is now rising.
You know we can't let you sell the relic.
Alright, relax, and tell your stupid mutt to shut up before I neuter him.
Soul Hunter, now aware the odds are against him, agrees to go with them to Bosselin Town to return the map to his father and apologize. From there, they can gain proper guidance from his father as well anyway, Soul Hunter tells them. As he knows the forest well, his companions and him reach the Bosselin Town quickly. The closer they got, the more strange thick ash flowed through the air. Upon entry, they see the town had been burned to the ground, and Soul Hunter falls to his knees. King knew there was a relic that could limit his power, and he knew where the map was hidden. Soul Hunter's father had been slain. Enraged, Soul Hunter gives the map over to Alistair and vows to stay with them to find the relic and take down King, rather than sell it for his own personal needs. Thus, they gain a new follower. All four of them open up the map and take a look inside. They see how they came from the Great Lands up top, down to Spirit Sands where Alistair met Windchaser, then down to Sky Tower, and now they're at Kingsar Forest. They see at the very bottom a map location labeled Relic. This must be where Panthmage was telling them about. Their first destination to get there shows they must pass through the Beast Plains. Soul Hunter adds all supplies he brought with them when they first encountered in Kingsar Forest to their supplies, and they set off. As painful it must be, they must pass through the burned town of Bosselin Town to begin their journey. Soul Hunter looked down as they walked past all the charred buildings, and Sprint sensed the loss of lives that just occurred from King's men burning down the village, so Sprint was moving uncomfortably alongside our heroes as well. But Windchaser and Alistair were actually looking at the damage, and it was horrifying to them what the king would do to stop them from finding the ancient relic that Panthmage told them to find. They made it through the town, and are now back on track. There's still slight damage to parts just outside of the town from the fire, but they push on. After a 2-hour-long walk, they were officially in the Beast Plains, the natural badlands on the edge of society. Windchaser halts, holds up her hand and says,
A storm is approaching.
Immediately after her saying that, a loud roar of thunder bursts from the sky. They quickly seek shelter from the storm under a rocky pass.
Shelter,
Says Soul Hunter, who surprisingly seems to look unfazed by his burned down village they recently passed through. It is obviously he has now become immune to feeling sadness and sorrow. The storm kicks up much worse, and they decide to rest under their large rock in the pass. They take this time to sleep a much needed rest. In the very early morning, they awake due to being alerted by Sprint, who is growling in a low tone. They hear footsteps around them, and when they stand up to look at where the noises are coming from, they see they are surrounded by savageries riding Rexes, led by Tyler. Tyler bluntly asks,
What are you doing on our homeland? This is ours! Speak quickly or be killed swiftly!
So they tell Tyler about their quest, and why they have now ended up on his land. And Tyler surprisingly sympathizes with them. He tells them that King has enslaved his people to dig in his gold mines, and took valuable land rich with resources from him for King's greedy needs. Tyler gives them 2 trained armored Rexes. This is a big gain for our heroes, because now Windchaser can ride on her loyal Sprint, while Alistair and Soul Hunter have their Rexes to ride, which don't need much food to run for long distances. They say their farewells, but before they can part, they are ambushed by a platoon of King's men traveling to get back up to the soldiers fallen in Kingsar Forest. Our soldiers help Tyler and his people escape, and they decide to take on the King's men. They see now that the soldiers are led by the Dark Summoner and Magus. The Dark Summoner says,
You have quite the bounty on your head, Alistair. Time for you to accept your execution.
We'll see who gets defeated today.
They fight a long battle. The Dark Summoner uses his powers to strengthen Magus, who uses magic and distance against our heroes to make them quickly rethink their strategy. Alistair is about to tell them what to do when Soul Hunter abruptly says,
Stand back.
He jumps out into the open, and a very bright light shoots directly from his weapon into the chest of Magus, immediately sending Magus plummeting to the ground. It is apparent that the Dark Summoner sees this as a big flaw in his plans, with Magus now being defeated. Having to recharge his light attack, Soul Hunter retreats behind his companions. Alistair grabs multiple King soldiers and crushes them, immediately afterwards also hitting others into large stones and setting them flying every which way. He can feel his body gaining strength and adapting quickly to his armor and newfound skills. Windchaser gets on sprint and begins to run around the Dark Summoner numerous times at lightning speed and starts to develop a vortex around him. It looks quite painful to be inside, Soul Hunter thinks to himself. All the King's men have now been slain, so all eyes are on the Dark Summoner and Windchaser. With the vortex increasing in power, it is hard to see what's going on. Through the thick twister that is being made around the Dark Summoner, Alistair could see the Dark Summoner's hands raise, and then quickly drop. Followed by this is a large dark aural blast that pulses horizontally through the vortex Windchaser made. A sonic boom dazes our heroes, sending them flying back. Groaning, they get up to see the Dark Summoner is gone, without a trace. They check and make sure that all needed supplies are still there, quickly converse about what crazy battle just took place, and then they start to set up to begin their journey once more. The more they wait, the more injustice is taking place. It's clear to them now that the king wants them dead, that he doesn't want the truth to come out, but our heroes are ready. They get on their steeds, and they look at the next location on the map.
It says on here, through the beast plane into the wall of Gaia.
Says Alistair. So the wall of Gaia it is. What is waiting for them at the wall of Gaia? And what is this ancient relic that Panthmage set them on a quest to find? We'll have to see next time. To be continued.